It's pretty commonplace to have your Node server talking to clients, uh, typically browsers, using Socket.io, even if your Node server is running in an embedded environment. But sometimes you may want your Node server to talk to other applications. And because I hadn't seen very many videos on that, I thought it would be useful to throw together a quick video on how we might have our Node server talk to a Windows application. So let's first just take a look at our very, very simple Node application, which instantiates a server. Then every 1 second, using this set interval, generates a reading of a temperature, which is located here. And here's where the temperature is read. And then sends that off through Socket.io to the clients that might be in need of this information. So we've seen that. Now let's just run our application. It starts up, and every 1 second, as we've discussed, it will start sending temperature. Let's build a Windows application that can consume this information. So we'll probably want to go to Windows or your Visual Studio and start a new project. And you could start a classic desktop, and that's what we're going to show here. And I'm going to use a Windows Form application. I'm not going to set this up because I've already got one built here. There's two things that we're going to need. First of all, let's go start up our NuGet package manager and get a couple things we need. The first thing that we're going to need is something called the Socket.io client. And this is done by Matthias Ludwig, and you can find information about that here, this project URL, and I'll include that in the video as well. Basically what Ludwig or Matthias has done is implemented the Socket.io framework within .NET. And he has two versions of it, the Socket.io client and the Socket.io server. And of course, because we're going to be acting as a client, we're going to need this package as part of our project. The second thing we're going to need is a very basic and popular extension as well, which is Newtonsoft's JSON library. This gives us some tools for handling JSON data, which is exchanged typically in Socket.io. So after you've installed those, we're ready to build our application. So I'm just going to speed through it and show you what I've designed. I've designed a very, very simple form that if you press this button right here, it is going to connect and show us the temperature. So let's take a look at what happens when I do this button click. This button click will start an Socket.io manager, and the Socket.io manager uses the Socket.io client for .NET library that Matthias has provided, and it connects to my BeagleBone. And after I've done that, I basically set up a socket on very similar mechanisms as is Socket.io. I have a socket handler for connecting, and I have one on receipt of temperature. So when I do get a socket connect message, what I'm going to do is I'm going to display connected right here. And when I get a temperature, I'm going to parse that temperature data, and I'm going to display it here. About the only other more difficult thing in here is because this happens on a different thread than the UI thread, I need to write a couple of handlers that will determine if it needs to be placed in the proper thread using delegate, and send that information off to my UI through these special helpers. So let's run our application. And let's start our connection. We'll see that it's connected here, and now we're reading temperature. And I'm going to see if I can put my hand on the BeagleBone and see if I can lower the temperature. And there you go. I've lowered the temperature because I put my thumb on the CPU. Very simple, and what I'll do is I'll include this code in the Git repository, and so you can download it and play with it. And of course, this is very, very simple, but you can see how you could extend it using building in the Socket.io manager. Thanks for watching.